Joining me right now is Newark Councilman Ronald C. Rice.
Joining me again, our Newark Councilman Ronald C. Rice.
Joining me now from D.C. is the Senior Director of Government Relations for the National Alliance is Ron Rice.
What up, sports fans? Curious Formula here with a new video. All right. What's happening, sports fans? Welcome to our show and welcome to Curious Formula Live. We are going live and we're from parts unknown, celebrating this holiday season. Happy Thanksgiving, happy pre-Thanksgiving to everybody that's there. Thanks for rocking with me even on today. I know this probably not the best time. I know people are basting turkeys and they're making macaroni and cheese and collard greens, putting your foot in the food, as my folks used to say. But you're spending a little time with us, and that's a good thing. So we're going to talk about why does America hate the Democratic Party? That's an attention grabber. And then secondly, we're going to talk about sort of why does kind of dark. Yeah, it is dark because I'm outside. Some people like to stay outside. I stay outside, so we're outside today. Parts unknown. I can't let you know where I'm at, right? I'm in a cavern of some sort, right? Out of bounds, out of doors. So, what we're going to talk about today is why does America hate the Democrat? What you got to do, you got to look out for your brother. You got to subscribe. You got to like. We want your comments here. We want you to spread the lives and share the live if you can. Let people know where you're at, what you're doing, and we'll talk about the content that you're getting here. We're working on our bells and whistles, but we're getting the content the way you need it, the way you like it, the way you deserve it, the way you're not getting it any place else. We deliver it right here. So first, we're going to talk about why does America hate the Democratic Party? And to start us off, Francis, can you hit that first video?
Now, after our 4-hour special last night, Professor Anderson, let's begin with you. If you can respond to Trump's victory.
The Confederacy won. When you begin to really think about what he advocated, the kind of racism, the kind of xenophobia, the kind of hatred, all wrapped in a sense of honor and gallantry. And how that resonated with such a large, wide swath of the American public, that begins to tell you that you're seeing the backlash to what they call the great, you're seeing the backlash to what they fear was the great replacement. And so this feels like the kind of last stand of white supremacy. And it's going to put so many of us in jeopardy. And it's also part of the drug of American exceptionalism, where those who voted for him believe that they're going to be safe from the policies that he's going to rain down. And so that becomes part of the amnesia of not seeing how he handled COVID, not remembering how he handled COVID, of not remembering his tariff wars that basically almost bankrupted farmers in Iowa, and the kind of chaos that he brings, the kind of divisiveness that he brings. It's like living in a reality show. And believing that it's not reality. This is a dark day for America. I think of Thomas Jefferson when he said, I tremble for my country because God is just, because that's what we're looking at. I'm trembling for our country right now.
And Professor Anderson, the vote that Trump got, right now it's at 71 million, will probably go up 1 or 2 million more as other states are counted in and absentee ballots, but it's still roughly about the vote that he got certainly last time. But the big drop appears to be in the vote for Kamala.
Carol Anderson. Carol Anderson is a brilliant professor, but she's just wrong. At the end of the day, race was not the reason why Kamala Harris did not win Donald Trump won. And it's not because, it's not people forgot about what happened during his first term either. Trump didn't win because of racism, because America has a history of electing a black president. not only electing a black president, but electing a black president convincingly with record numbers of votes. And in states that Democrats haven't won in before then, 20 years, and haven't won since. States like Indiana, states like North Carolina, states like Ohio and Florida, right? So racism was not it, even though some may say that it was an appeal to racism. It certainly was not because of race. And people voted for him despite what his perceived differences were or deficiencies were.
25,000.
It's really because the Dems were seen as a worse choice by a majority of Americans. And so if Americans voted for Donald Trump, who had all these deficiencies, what does that say about the Democratic Party? It says a lot. And I think it gets to the crux of what we're talking about here. It's why America hates the Democratic Party. There are 5 reasons why America hates the Democratic Party. And my good friend Black Uhuru here talked about a little bit about it when he says that the Democratic Party tent is too large. That's sort of the reason why. But here are the 5 real reasons why. And I'm going to a little hyperbole why America hates the Democratic Party. First of all, the Dems lied to us about Joe Biden. Number 2, the 100-day campaign that was Kamala Harris. Number 3, the nation does not believe the Dems represent working class America. Number 4, the Democratic Party represents special interests over their constituents, right? And that's a major problem as well. And the 5th reason why is, sorry, I'm reading my notes in the dark here, folks. The campaign style is outdated and doesn't belong in the 21st century campaign. So let's take it one by one. So the Dems lied to us about Joe Biden. Folks, we all know that Joe Biden had no business seeking a second term. The mind is there, the acumen is there, but the delivery, the ability to respond, the ability to deal with questions is gone, right? The ability to be quick on his feet, to be seen as presidential, to be seen as leader, to be of that stature, to fill the suit out, as we say in politics, was not there. And honestly, it wasn't there for a while. But the Democrats in the party, the Nancy Pelosi's, the other folks in the party did not let on to that. Indeed, Joe Biden was supposed to have been a one-term president. I think the Democratic Party believed that he was their best bet, their strongest bet, to fend off a Donald Trump challenge, which they knew was going to be strong, and that a new candidate, a novice candidate, someone who had never weathered the storm of a national campaign, would get eaten up by Donald Trump. And that may be true, but that's what happened anyway. And so because of that, because there was not a vibrant primary, because there was not a real knock 'em out, drag 'em out fight, and then a victor emerging, and instead it was bestowed upon somebody who I thought was an able candidate, but an able candidate had a short amount of time, Democrats lost. And in the process, Americans who are Democratic or would probably lean towards voting for them decide not to do so in this election cycle. They paid for it at the ballot box in ways that I'm not sure they understood. The second reason why is the 100-day campaign that I alluded to. Listen, you can say what you want to say about Kamala Harris, but she ran a hell of a campaign with 107 days to run a campaign, with the country knowing very little bit about her. She made this a close election. As numbers keep coming in, this is not a blowout election as we thought on election night. Donald Trump is barely winning in the popular vote, even as he, stomped in the Electoral College. This is still a 50-50 split when he talks about who actually voted in this election. And for that, Kamala Harris bringing back the party from the dead, bringing back the enthusiasm, bringing back the registration numbers, the 5-1, 3-1 registration numbers the Democrats saw in battleground states. And again, bringing the constituencies back to life. She actually overperformed in the suburbs. She actually overperformed with white men and women who had college degrees. She overperformed in the suburbs. She got more Republican votes than Joe Biden did. These things were thought would never happen. She beat handily Donald Trump in their only debate that they had, right? So there were things that she was able to do, things she was able to accomplish that I don't know if any other candidate would have been able to accomplish. But still in all, it was a 100-day campaign. And as now we do know, as we open up the hood to look at what's actually happening in the campaign, David Plouffe, who I revere as the top guru of targeting, said polling shows she was never I repeat, never in the lead of Donald Trump at any time during the campaign. That blows my mind because people like me were modeling the campaign, modeling the race afterwards, had no clue that national polling was off. And people know, if you watch my content, I don't like national polling. I don't think it's reliable, but it certainly gives us signs and signals. It helps us lead us down certain paths to look at what's strong. We never thought that she was never leading, just like we never thought that the urban core, the base of the Democratic Party, would not come out for her. And indeed, that's what happened. Indeed, that's why she lost. But it's because of that 100-day campaign that she got a lot of energy up into the polls and into the campaign. And when they lost, it's why Americans, and particularly those who voted for the Democratic Party, are so mad, angry, pissed off, because again, they felt people like David Plouffe and others lied to us, lied to them, and they put their eggs in one basket and they were rewarded with a loss. The third reason, as I mentioned, the nation does not believe the Democratic Party represents working class people. Look, we saw signs of it, right? We saw the Teamsters as a union, the national president, who normally supports Democrats, just decided they were not going to do a national endorsement. Other unions did that were bigger, badder, wiser. And the Teamsters have a reputation of being kind of conservative, right? The Teamsters endorsed Ronald Reagan in 1980 and sort of courted and began with what became known as the Reagan Democrats. So they've always been a lot more conservative, a lot more, the building trades and the other kind of trades. They're always a little bit more conservative than your average traditional progressive Democrat or liberal Democrat. They're always more conservative. They were big Bill Clinton supporters, big DLC supporters, Democratic Leadership Council supporters. But the Teamsters not supporting them was something that we should look at. Then we saw Latinos, right? And we saw black voters. Now listen, black men did their job, right? Contrary to what people were prognosticating, along with black women. But the share of black voters, share of black men that were going to Donald Trump increased. Latino men obviously was a bad number. But it's because they don't believe the Democrats really represent working class values anymore, working class citizens. They don't believe that government is not delivering on what government is saying that they should deliver it, right? And that's what that's kind of a Dem fault, right? The Dems have kind of have said this is what government should do, this is what government can do. Government should do this, government should do that. That's not a Republican talking point, that's a Democrat talking point, right? And Democrats in a lot of people's minds have not delivered. Doesn't matter they delivered on infrastructure, doesn't matter that they delivered on some of the big ticket items. People are not feeling it. And if people don't feel it in the pocketbook, if people do not feel it in the home, if people do not feel it in the household, then it doesn't exist. Doesn't matter what the stats show. Doesn't matter what the numbers show. What matters is if I feel it. And they didn't feel it. The fourth reason is Democratic Party seen as representing special interests over their constituents. And you all know how I feel about that. I've said that many times, right? I've said that the Democratic Party, in a lot of ways, will talk working class issues, will talk middle class issues, will talk about representing freedom, right? For the individual, freedom for the family, freedom in a lot of instances to decide what's best for their families, best for their communities, best for themselves individually, and best for their collective, right? But at the same time, there's a special interest grouping within the Democratic Party that stops them from really and truly representing some really basic things that the base of the Democratic Party says that they want. What are those things? I give you that example regularly. Charter schools and public school choice. It regularly polls 65 to 75% amongst African Americans and Latinos. This is what black and brown parents want. Working class black and brown parents who don't have a lot of options in their life. They don't have a lot of freedoms in their life. They don't have a lot of choices in their life. And by a huge number, they support having more options because they recognize what seemingly the political establishment of the Democratic Party does not recognize. And that is that they want new options to get out of poverty. They know education is the way to do that. And their options in terms of the zip code neighborhood school mandate that you must attend the school, no matter how bad, no matter how dangerous, and that is in your zip code, that is the school you must send your child to. When they are crying and hue cry out to the Democratic Party to help us with that, the majority of the Democratic Party does not only not listen, but they send their own kids to other schools outside of those districts, outside of the districts that they actually oversee, outside the district they actually are over, and are elected officials over, right? And people see the hypocrisy. People see the hypocrisy of choice for me, not for thee, right? In terms of social issues, we talk about the moral issues. We talk about the issue of abortion. You know, abortion and most Americans are pro-choice, but it's really a 50-50% split. And in the African American and people of color communities, Latinos who tend to be very Catholic and religious and old school Democrat, black folks who are Democrats who go to black churches, right? The issue is not as clear cut as it is, say, with white progressives, right? The Democratic Party, in a lot of ways, has leaned white progressive and not leaned black and brown and white working class. It's leaned white progressive on a lot of issues and not leaned working class, no matter the color or ethnic background, in middle America, like in the last 50 years. And it's starting to show at the ballot box. The last thing is the campaign style is outdated. The Democrats have, listen, big rallies, bringing out Hollywood celebrities, music celebrities, going door to door. You know, the lack of a social media ecosystem that is equal to the Republicans is starting to show. Donald Trump has rallies. It works for him. I'm not sure it works for Democratic candidates. I'm not sure that, you know, not having a Joe Rogan type. I'm not sure of not having the kind of social media platforms that are out there, on the right, that we need to replicate them. We don't need to replicate them. We need to do it better. And we need to actually promote some of these young guys out here who are doing incredible things. I follow a lot of these younger content creators who are not all progressive. Some of them are very moderate Democrats. Some of them are very centrist Democrats. Some of them are progressive, but there's a mixture of them. But they are offering really good ideas, really good pragmatic ideas. They're actually speaking and debating and interacting with people who are working class, who are middle class, particularly that are young. And the Democratic Republicans just have outdone us. We used to be the party of young people. We're not anymore, right? When you look at sort of, you know, the fact that Charlie Kirk, who, you know, I have a lot of criticism for, he went on a college tour, right? Talking to, you know, Republicans, but he was debating liberals and filming how nonsensical a lot of them are on some of these positions, right? And those videos went viral, right? You know, some of these women and men who were progressive and liberal on these campuses were defending these nonsensical things. And Charlie Kirk is a brilliant debater. And he was spinning these young kids, God bless them, their hearts, 18, 19, 20 years old, who couldn't defend their arguments. They were just repeating what they have said. Now, you can make the case about Republicans, but where was the Democrat out there telling the Republicans that, you know, doing the same thing, debating them, showing their you know, how erroneous their arguments were? There wasn't. And those things go viral, and those things are important. And Trump going on Joe Rogan and Trump going on a number of podcasts that his son told him to go on to, right? Moved people more than Kamala Harris going on Howard Stern. I'm a big Howard Stern fan, but Howard Stern does not appeal to that younger crowd anymore. He's in the twilight of his career. He's not the outrageous shock jock that he used to be. And so not going on Joe Rogan, not going on a number of podcasts that, you know, I just don't know about. And Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and the rest of those folks putting him out there, it moved people. It definitely moved people by the numbers, and it moves enough to win an election. So, you know, there's a lot that needs to happen with the Democratic Party. I don't think America hates the Democratic Party. You know, there will be debates about which way the Democrats need to go, left or right. That's natural, you know. And like I said, I'm being facetious when I say that America hates the Democratic Party. But before we start having the debates about whether we should become more progressive, more liberal, or more centrist and conservative, right? You first have to be likable. You first have to be believable. And I just don't expect a Trump failure. If Trump is a failure in office, you know, for those voters to come back to the Democrats, because what is not talked about in a lot of media places, which we're going to talk about here, is because unless the Democrats become more likable, those voters are not coming back to the Democratic Party. That's something the Democratic Party is missing. That's something that legacy media and some content creators are missing here. Well, you know, I hear a lot of people saying, well, we'll just wait till Trump fails in office and then those people will swing back to us in the midterms. They might swing it for the midterms, but it may not give you the presidency. Why? Because think about who these voters are. These voters have been on a continuing search for something that began with the Obama election and other subsequent elections. They've taken what I call big swings right? They voted outside their comfort zone to try to get big change. There was no bigger change you could have made in 2007 and 2008 than support Barack Obama, a black man with a scant record in the Senate, right, who decides he's going to run for president, and his name is Barack Hussein Obama, right? You can't get any crazier, any more far left, or not even far left, right? Because Obama's not a far left guy, but you can't get any more out of the box. You can't take a bigger swing than putting your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations in that kind of candidacy, right? That was the big swing that happened for big change, right? And then the other big swing was Donald Trump, right? You've heard me talk about how many Obama supporters who are not Democrat or Republican or even the independents, who are just regular low propensity voters, said, yeah, I voted for Obama, and then I voted for Donald Trump, because they were big swinging. They were swinging for the fences for some big change, right? And then after COVID and after all those things happened, he took another big swing with Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden was old. He was the vice president. He wasn't that whatever. It was in the middle of a pandemic. They swung for the fences because he said he could bring the country together, that he could nail a way, that he could work with Republicans, right? Because he had worked with them in the Senate. He had worked with them as vice president to pass Obama's priorities, right? They swung big. They swung big, right? And then the big swing back now is Donald Trump, right? That they say, look, I know all the things you're talking about, but I'm swinging big because I need to change my condition. There will come a time eventually where America would just not only stop swinging big, America will stop playing the game. And that doesn't help the Democrats at all. And it bodes negatively for the party in the future. All right, let's get on to the next one. See what some of the comments are here. Black Uhuru says, at least the white conservatives don't hide their dislike. That's true. But understand something, Black Uhuru, about white conservatives. You know, I'm of the opinion white conservatives are not anti-America. We have to get past that sort of dichotomy of you know, the Republicans think that the Democrats are anti-American. Democrats think the white conservatives are anti-American. There are different types of white conservatives. You know, I don't necessarily believe that MAGA folks are conservatives in the truest sense. And in that respect, you know, they just have a different view about how they think America is going to needs to be corrected. Some of them are Trump supporters. Some of them are just there because they need to be there because that's the only horse in town, right? But yeah, they're a lot louder than we are. They're a lot more in your face than we are, and they have a lot more energy than we do. And that's the thing that the Democratic Party is going to have to capture. They want to get back to it. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Is what is wrong with Black America? Well, what do Black people want? It should be the first question we ask ourselves, right? There's two camps of thought that I think of in my own mind. One is like traditional liberals, right? And who are traditional liberal Black people? Angela Rye, Charlemagne the God, Simone Sanders. You know, they follow the traditional progressive, and I would add white progressive policies, especially traditional education, public school education people. They are into big government, right? That government should play a huge role in transforming lives and changing lives for the better. They are very pro-choice. And then I think the second camp are what we call traditional neo-conservatives. They are like Candace Owens. They are like Larry Elder, Congressman Byron Donalds, the Black Manosphere, who you hear me be critical of, at least on those kind of issues about policies. They're telling me my audio is bad, Francis. Let me go back. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me, folks. Folks, let me know if you can hear me. I'll start again because I know sometimes we get these audio issues. Okay, Casual Topics. Thank you, buddy. I was saying that there are two camps of Black people. One is the traditional liberals. That's the Angela Ryes of the world, the Charlemagne the Gods of the world, Simone Sanders. They follow traditional progressive policies. Thank you, Black Uhuru. Especially on social matters, right? Feminism, LGBTQA plus issues, education. They're very, traditional education, K through 12 folks. They're into big government. The government is not only has a role to play, government should have an outsized role in changing the conditions of people, and they're very pro-choice. Then I have to think the second faction, I think I call the traditional neoconservatives, for lack of a better term. I couldn't think of a better term for them. They're the Candace Owens of the world, the Larry Elders, the Byron Donalds, Congressman Byron Donalds of the world, the Black manosphere in general, at least when it comes to political issues. And they follow the old school sort of Reagan Republican rhetoric, but they like Trump's attack mode, right? They like the style of Donald Trump. So they think outside the box when it comes to education. They're no friend of the traditional educational public education model. They're no friends of sort of government, right? They want smaller government. They want government out the way. They tend to come from a moral position that morality is missing from the Black community, and some of that is big government induced, right? They kick the Black man out of the house with welfare. Those kind of people. They have lower taxes, right? They want lower taxes. They want they believe in the tradition of do for self, right, and small business support. Now, they both have troubles too, right? So traditionally, the trouble with the traditional liberals are that Black folks are mostly conservative, right? And especially when it comes to social issues. And again, when it comes to feminism, Black people support feminism, but it's a more conservative way than white progressive. The LGBTQIA plus community, Black people support that, right? We support that community. They're our allies, but they support it in different ways than the white progressives do. The same thing with public school education, right? And school choice, and even the role of government, right? We want government to do some things, but Black people still say there's some things government shouldn't do, right? We want government and the police to protect us, but they want police reform. They want qualified immunity. They want government to, get the brothers off the corner, but, don't abuse brothers with stop and frisk, right? And they're pro-choice, but they believe that like abortion is bad. It's a woman's right, but like we need to have as few abortions as possible. And even the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus, is a moderate organization compared to, say, the Progressive Caucus in Congress. And the trouble also is that, mostly they're supported by white benefactors. If you look at the George Soroses of the world and other sort of big liberal whites, like that's who supports big unions, right? Support the agenda of the traditional Black liberal, right? And that's problematic too, in them representing certain things that they should represent for their constituents, but they have relationships with special interest groups that are white and progressive and maybe have a different end goal. They have that problem. Same problem with traditional neoconservatives, is just a little bit different. But they tend to be they have a low knowledge about the GOP history, right? They don't really know about Lee Atwater, right, or the Southern Strategy, right, or how Republicans that were Black people who were Republicans, say in the 40s and 50s, that they always say that they are the heirs from, right, that they are the heirs of those Black Republicans. Those Black Republicans were progressive. They were liberals, the Jackie Robinsons of the world, the Ed Fletchers of the world, the Jackie Robinsons of the world, the more prominent Black Republicans from that time frame, right? They don't really have a lot in common with them. So with the ones that are today, there's nothing really in common. When you look at Jackie Robinson, who was a bona fide conservative Republican, has very little in common with the Candace Owens or Larry Elder of today. And you don't take my word for it. You can Google it and look at old videos about it, right? They tend to be low information voters about how government works, what it can and cannot do, right? They really don't really understand how the federal government works, how the state government works, how local government works, and what their responsibilities are. And so they put a lot of blame on the government and what they think that the government does and doesn't do for Black people. And it's funny how they say like the Democratic Party doesn't do anything for Black people, but they're in a Republican Party that doesn't want government to do anything, right? Anything remotely close to what they think government needs to be. That's a low information voter. That's an information voter who doesn't know anything about politics or policy. That's why I would say the Black manosphere is woefully inadequate, woefully ignorant about real politics, because they don't know what government can and cannot do, or should and should not do. They don't have a real plan either, right? They don't really know what a government that supports black people actually should look like, so they can beat up on what the Democrats do, but they don't really know what the Republican Party or what conservative ideas and ideology needs to do to help black people either. They should read up on Jack Kemp, my favorite Republican. They might actually learn something. They also don't do anything for black people. I mean, you could talk about Angela Rye and some of the other people all you want to, but I know what they do for black people. I don't see anything that Candace Owens or Larry Elder or any of the other folks that I mentioned, particularly in the Black manosphere, what they have actually done for black people, except for maybe one or two folks. And in the same way that the traditional liberal black folks have mostly white benefactors, the traditional neoconservatives have mostly white benefactors, and their audience is mostly black. It's mostly white people, right? There are very few white people, black people, who are following and lead and looking for the black conservatives to lead them anywhere, right? And my daddy always told me, man, who was in office for 30 years, right, as an elected official, who won against the Democratic Party machine 3 times, right, that if you ain't a leader, ain't nobody following you, right? So that's the problem that the neocons have as well. Colin Powell, yeah, Black Uhuru, that's another one, right? Colin Powell is a traditional, Republican in that sense. So what's the way forward, right? Is there a way to bridge that gap between the two? Ways that we can forge the best from both, have honest conversations about what that looks like? I think we can. And one of the things I'm interested in that's recently come up as an answer to Project 2025, right, from the more conservative Heritage Foundation and other similarly situated conservative organizations, who lays out their federal agenda and things that need to be done. Something that's come up by a young lady named Anaya Holloway and a number of other folks. It's called the Black Project 2025. And it's about how do we define, how do we develop, and then how do we push for the implementation of and hold people accountable to an agenda that is about black people. Roll the tape for me if you can, Francis, and let me know when it ends.
Members. The Black Project 2025 has 25,000 members in 72 hours, which is insane. So what am I working on today? Well, first things first, I'm working with an attorney. We're in the process of filing for that nonprofit. I'm not playing any games about that. Aside from that, I'm in the process of setting up a database so that way we can keep track of all of our applicants that are looking to fill the roles that we need filled. If you're looking to go apply, go to the Instagram bio, it's there. Aside from that, I'm reaching out to Heartbeat. We need a full export of all members. I also am working with the team to update the deck for tomorrow's call. And we're going to specify the platforms that we're going to go live on, because the platform Webinar Jam can only hold a max of 5,000 participants. And just the way that this is growing, I feel like there are going to be more than 5,000 participants. So sit tight on that. And I'm finalizing out our Discord build so we can migrate over. But guys, this is insane. Make sure you go follow Black Project 2025 on Instagram and keep them coming.
Okay. So when you hear Anaya Holloway talk about these issues, behind it, there's no will way to implement it. The other thing I'll say is that it's typically led and run by folks who are very not only just Afrocentric, but very progressive. There is almost alt-left, almost revolutionary, and that just doesn't work in a representative democracy republic with the capitalist system in terms of its economic system. Like, it just doesn't work. And the more left it goes, the more that folks in government go, even progressive whites will go, look, that's a little radical. It tends to bog down in things like reparations, which I always say needs to be understood better and studied more, right? And it doesn't include conservative voices. I think but it is worth a consideration. And I, for one, am imploring those of you who care about Black people to start looking at that particular site. Go on it. I am to talk about education issues. You guys know my commitment to public school choice, and hoping that is a way to solve the education crisis that is in America. Waiting to hear back from some people there. But my hope is that it will take some conservative voices, because I think Black liberation. How do we get the most out of this political system that exists? Basically, what Du Bois and I will even add that Black liberal Republicans used to advocate for in the 40s and 50s. That's the model that I think makes the most sense. I think conservatives' position on spirituality, on self-policing and building our own institutions. I think centering our progress on the family and us taking responsibility of cleaning up ourselves and cleaning up our communities, again, with the government assistance at time, but when government can't do it, us depending on ourselves for ourselves. I mean, that's what Louis Farrakhan advocated. That's what Marcus Garvey advocated. That's what a number of folks and institutions in our community have advocated over the decades. And that's something that needs to be looked at, supported, and, made the foundation of a coming together of both sides. Let me just end by saying this. I don't think that there is ever any real division amongst Black people. There shouldn't be. And the only way we're going to actually come to some kind of common ground about solving these issues is to recognize that neither the left nor the right, not even the moderates in the middle, have all the answers to solve what ails our communities. And we need to have the mutual respect to say that, yes, there's a lot that Black people need to do for themselves. There's a lot that Black people need to exercise and take the responsibility for, be held accountable for in terms of our behavior, in terms of our morals, in terms of how our families develop, in terms of how we look at education and how we, clean up our communities and the like. I can remember being a councilman and had someone saying, like, look, they don't clean up my street enough. And I go, we have a block association. Why can't y'all guys just clean up? I can bring bags, I can bring, containers. That's not my job. I pay taxes. Well, I'm like, well, they certainly do that in the suburbs. I mean, if the people don't clean anything in the suburbs, they don't just let trash in their streets, they clean it up. Like, we got to take responsibility for our communities. We got to take responsibility for mentoring our young people, for providing jobs and opportunities for them. We got to learn to buy Black and those kind of things. But that's not the only way that we're going to solve these issues. Government has a role to play. Government has a responsibility because we're taxpayers, because we pay property taxes, we pay sales taxes, we pay into Social Security, we pay into Medicare, we pay into Medicaid, right? We pay into all the things that everyone else benefits from. And so we have a right to demand equal, if not more, for the work that we put in and resources that we put in to get the resources out to help our communities. So it's not either or, it's both and both sides need to stop shouting at each other, trying to score points, particularly when you talk about how men are supposed to be treating women and women are supposed to be treating men on these social media platforms that don't have any married people like myself talking about what a good marriage looks like, or what a family looks like, or how to save money and how to generate money. It's just everybody's on a scam and everybody's looking at pointing fingers and getting clicks and likes. That's not holistic. That's not helping us either. But it definitely is a symbiosis of both. And we need both if we're going to succeed as a race, as a people, and be successful in this nation that they call the USA. There ain't none of us leaving anytime soon. So to wrap us up, folks, I know we always talk about debates and whatnot. I look forward to you guys debating. We would love to have guests that come on here and debate with us. And I know, again, this is a quick notice. I'm in the dark a little bit here, but we'll be back to our normal schedule on next Wednesday after these holidays. And we're going to do something here that's a little bit more than just talking about issues and policies. We're going to start talking about what actually works. Two things I like to see us do on this content going forward, now that this very divisive election is behind us, is we need to be talking about things that actually work in our communities, highlighting them, interviewing people who are actually working those things. And we need to have some more positive interactions here. Long gone are the times and needs of social media dividing us, and pushing us to the side and making us call each other out. We're going to start pushing some positive news here. We're going to start pushing some positive stories here. We're going to start pushing some things here that make you smile and make you recognize that tomorrow can be a better day than today was. We're going to start talking about spirituality. We're going to talk about family, and we're going to start talking about finances. Yes, I'm going to take you guys and be very personal on my own financial journey. Something I'm going to announce on December 4th, which happens to also be the birthday of the greatest fraternity God ever saw and allowed on this planet, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to the good brother. I see you out there, Black Uhuru. But on that date, I'm going to make an announcement here. And about my own sort of financial journey that we are overcoming as a family. And I hope you'll follow me as we move forward past that great milestone that we're about to accomplish on December 4th. And we're going to talk about how our communities can get more dollars, how individually you can become more financially solvent, and how that also translates into our freedom, into our journey forward, and into a future that all of us need and want, not just for our own selves, not just for our own families, but for our community at large. And if it happens for our community, it's also good for America as well. Thank you all for rocking with me. We're going to cut it short tonight, but I appreciate you. Please make sure you subscribe, that you like, and that you hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. We go live every Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there, be square, same bat time, same bat channel. We need you here to make it work. We want your people involved. We want you asking questions. And please suggest topics you'd like us to talk about here. Some days we might even have an Ask Me. We're going to leave here. We're going to go to my TikTok channel, and we're going to go live there in about 15 minutes. Thank you all for rocking with me. And remember, stay curious and think. It ain't illegal yet. And I'm out.
Joining me right now is Newark Councilman Ronald C. Rice.
Joining me again, our Newark Councilman Ronald C. Rice.
Joining me now from D.C. is the Senior Director of Government Relations for the National Alliance is Ron Rice.
What up, sports fans? Curious Formula here with a new video